Miss Jenay Bowen, how you doing, my friend?
I am doing good. Thanks for having me, Carl.
I see that you're doing good. So our mutual friend Jimmy, who you work with, told me you're closing like eight, nine, eight. Actually, I think it ended up like 8.5 units you're averaging per month. And
Yes.
so, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, and we don't ask how much you make per loan because we use just kind of a generic number on the podcast, which kind of works around the country ish.
Okay.
$3,000 per closing. So, 25 grand a month, 27 grand a month.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
not too shabby.
No,
Hey,
it'll
I got
definitely help pay the bills.
yeah. Hey, I got a real question for you. How many of your non-mortgage friends make 25, 26, 27 grand a month?
Very few. Very,
Yeah.
very few.
It's the same for me too, which I, one thing I like about the podcast, we can kind of sit here and spike the ball a little bit, and kind of celebrate. Cause like if we were to go up to our friends, like if we were sitting around a campfire and there's three or four of our non-mortgage friends, and I go, Janae, how was your month? Well, 25 grand. I'm trying to get it up a little bit. Well, we can't say that, and you can't
Yeah, no.
you can't go to your friend and say, "Hey, I just had a 37 grand month." Like you can't do that, and I
Yeah.
think it's important. I do. I think it's important to spike the ball a little, not in front of our friends,
Yeah.
that might make that take 6 months to make that, but
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. And
so
they just can't fathom making it a month. It's
well,
unrealistic sometimes for them.
I remember when I got in the mortgage business, the guy that got me into it is I didn't even know what he did. But I thought he did pretty good. And I said, "What do you do?" And he told me, "I'm a mortgage broker." What's that? And told me a little bit about it. So how much you get paid? He said, 25, 30. Oh, yeah, I don't know if I could do that. Hey, well, you might have misunderstood me. That's what I make per month.
Yeah.
Couldn't even fathom, that
Yeah.
kind of money. So congratulations. So, what we're going to talk about today, I hear you do this thing called the loan consultation form. And
Hmm.
and I literally know nothing about it. Meg reached out. I guess she connected us two together, and she said, "Janae's doing this thing, loan consultation. You're going to want to hear this." And so, what is that?
Yeah, it's really it's just a process, right, around the pre-approval meeting. And one of the things I learned years ago, I had my boss come in and I said, "Hey, will you sit down and I want you to just watch my meeting?" I had a lovely couple coming in and I want you to just sit there and hang out and then kind of critique me. Tell me what I did good, tell me what I did bad. And that meeting was about an hour and a half long. And I was like, yes, I killed it. Like, I'm on
Mhm.
it. Like, yes. After the meeting, he sits down with me and he says, wow, that was pretty bad. And I said, oh my gosh, like, what did I do?
Thanks for the encouragement. Yeah,
I know. I mean, I asked for it. So
yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
I wanted the feedback and I wanted
Yeah,
honesty because the only way you get better
that's how
is
you learn.
honesty, right? And
Yeah.
I asked for him to be in there. So I knew it was probably not going to be good, but I thought I was better than what he told me. And he told me one thing and he said, you know what? This is really broken down into three parts. You've got to have, it's just kind of like English class, right? You got to have your intro. Where are you starting? Kind of build that rapport
Mm.
into it. The second part is the nuts and the bolts. Like, let's get them qualified. What does that look like? And make sure you hit some bullet points in that. And then the closing, which is close the sale, right? And if you just follow these three things in a process, 90% of your problems that occur through the entire transaction to closing will probably go away. And I thought, 90%? Like, I actually have some problems, right? Like, we all have problems and things
Sure.
happen. But you're telling me that in this one meeting, that 90% of them can just kind of go away? And he says, yes, because you're going to be so good and so thorough in that meeting. You've got all of the things dialed in and the problems that are going to come up. You've already predicted those and you've already had the conversation. I said, okay. So I just said, well, then give me the three things because I want it. And then I just started doing that. So those were those three things.
So the intro, the nuts and bolts, and the close. So All right, so and I want to go through those, but so on this loan consultation checklist, is this something that you give to them, or is it something like
No,
like you have kind of in front of you? Is it a
yeah,
guideline for you to make sure you're sticking with it, kind of thing?
yeah. I have it in front of me. I actually have one like right here where it looks like, and I check the boxes. I can
While they're
go
sitting
through it
there?
while they're sitting there, and I
Okay.
can check the boxes of it. And of course, and the thing is, because what I also notice is that sometimes I would miss things, right? And I forget, and then I'm like, oh, I did my check, I did the process, and if I didn't check off the boxes as I went through it, sometimes I missed those things. And those ended up being the important things that problems happen. And
Mhm.
questions came up that I was like, I skipped a step and don't skip a step.
Very, which makes sense because if you think of like a pilot every time they've flown that thing 10,000 times, literally,
Uh-huh.
and every
Yeah.
time they sit in that seat, they grab their he or she grabs their checklist and start going off the checklist, make sure you don't miss anything.
Yeah.
So on this checklist, and you sent me over a copy of it. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I counted just real briefly. I think there's 21 boxes here that you check. So like when you have this thing in front of you, like if I'm your client, I'm your
Hmm.
prospect, and I see you with this thing in front of you, do you like introduce like, hey Carl, so what we're going to do is I've got 21 points here that we're going to go over to make sure we cover everything, and it's going to start off by first, and I'm just reading the first one here. We're going to verify all the information on your application is correct.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so do you kind of tell them what this checklist is, or do you kind of have it to the side and you're just kind of mentally checking it off in your head?
I usually kind of have it to the side, mentally check. Sometimes I'll say to them, "Hey, if you don't mind, there is some things that I want to make sure I don't miss in our meeting." So I like to check these things off to make sure that we've covered everything.
I think I like you telling me that you've got a 21 loan consultation checklist to make sure that we cover everything, to make sure that you get full advantage of everything that I know.
Yeah,
And so we'll be
which
going
is
over
very
that.
different than anybody else that's doing it.
Well, I'm not doing it. I can tell you that, so
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why you're here, right? I'm learning.
Yep.
So there's 21 things here, but there's three parts. There's an intro, nuts and bolts, and close. Do we kind of go over some? And we're not going to have time to go over the whole
Yeah.
loan consultation, and we'll here at the end. I'll give people a way to that we can they can see more on this thing. Is it better for us today to go over the loan consultation form, or do we talk about the intro, the nuts and bolts, and the close? Like what should we talk about?
I think we go through the three things, right? Let's hit the bullet points of the three things, and go through that because then sometimes the checklist actually kind of gets weaved into those three things, so it'll all get completed.
All right. So now for somebody's in your office, has virtually all of them made application at this point, or is this where you take the application?
Most of the time, it's already done before they come in. So they've already either completed it online or we've gotten their information over the phone and pulled credit. Every once in a while, someone doesn't want to do it over the phone and they want to do it when they're here. But most of the time, it's already completed. So I have it ready to go. I've already got a credit report. So I've already looked at those type of things.
All right. So Realtor Jill told me to give you a call. I gave you a call. Uh, you took an application or sent me the link,
Hmm.
and I filled it out. And then you said, "All right, Carl, hey, I've got all your information. Let's meet tomorrow at 3 p.m. and we'll look to see what loan programs you qualify for and what different ways that I can help you." And so I go, "Great." And so now I'm showed up in your office. Now we're going to go over the loan consultation. What percent of these do you do? Because where are you located at, Janae?
I'm just outside of Dallas.
Which is a
So just east
huge,
of Dallas.
huge
Yes.
town, right? That's
Yeah.
right up there with Atlanta when you talk about driving from one side to the
Yeah.
other. Do
Yeah.
you meet what percentage of your clients are you meeting face to face versus Zoom or phone? Like, what does that look like?
Well, so I either meet them face to face or in on Zoom. And like you said, there's a lot of times traffic can be very
Sure.
difficult to get around, and so it can take a while. But I would tell you that I try 100% of the time to meet on face to face and Zoom. Like that's a non-negotiable for me because I can't do the same meeting over the phone and see their facial expressions. Are they understanding where what I'm saying, right? And I can't read their body language
Mhm.
if I'm not seeing them. So I'd say 9 out of 10 are always face to face or on a Zoom call. And it's always face to face first. And then if I can't, it's Zoom. I'd say now, it used to be 80% of them were always face to face. Now it's probably more like 30% are face to face in the office. But
Yeah.
if not, we are on a Zoom call.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think, the initial call can be a phone, of course, but I think when you're going for the close and you're asking for their commitment, boy, there's nothing like having a facial, some
Yeah.
FaceTime. And I think Zoom's not as good as belly to belly, but it's pretty close.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty close. So,
Yeah.
all
And
right,
more
cool.
people are now way more open to doing video calls than they were 5 years ago. And I mean, now they're like, if they're in their house and their hair's not done or whatever, like they used to care about it. You try to get
Nobody
somebody on video and nobody would do it. Now,
nobody
like, oh, just
cares.
come.
I like that. All right, so there's three basic parts to the loan consultation. What's the what is the desired outcome? Why am I doing a loan consultation checklist? What's the end result? Hey, when you started doing this versus before you started doing this, what difference do I get in results?
Well, number one is the problems, right? All the problems that came up in the process from the time that they were qualified to the time they closed. I was able to basically minimize that because I could set up all the expectations. So the problems that came up, just, I can make sure that when I send a pre-approval letter, it's good as gold. Like it's cash. Like
Mhm.
I need to make sure that they are going to close and that we've addressed any concerns, but also it's taking care of my agents, right? Because my agents are spending a lot of time out there. They're
Mhm.
showing them houses sometimes for months at a time. And I need them to know that they're not wasting their time with somebody that can't get qualified. And
Mhm.
I've done my job and my due diligence to go through everything that I can possibly go through with them that would be a reason they wouldn't want to buy. So I always tell them, hey, when you get a pre-approval and you get that client back from me, that they're ready to make an offer. I've answered all their questions. They know their budget. They know what their desired price point needs to be. We know how to structure the offer. Everything is dialed in so they don't have as many questions either, and they can make a quick, informed decision to make the offer versus going, I'm not sure yet. I don't know the answers to all this, which is what I really hear in the market is people aren't ready because they aren't educated and they just didn't have a meeting with their loan officer that explained everything and educated them.
Mm. So what it sounds like, which makes sense. It gives a much more smooth process, which results in happy clients, which results in more referrals. On your hundred or so loans that you close a month, a year,
Year. That'd be
uh,
great.
yeah. Where does most of your business come from? I just slightly
Yeah.
off topic, but
Real
where do you
estate
get most?
agents.
Okay,
Mainly all real
yeah,
estate agents, right? Taking care
yeah,
of the agent, right? It's a warm referral over to me.
yeah,
So they've already reached out to the agent. They've got a trust built there. And so they're coming to me through that.
yeah. I always thought it was the cheapest, easiest way to get business because basically my real estate agents are is my free sales force that's out
Yeah.
in the ditches,
We
out in the
call them my
field.
cheerleaders.
Yeah, yeah, out in the field,
Yeah.
finding our clients for us. It's like how much I always feel
Yeah.
a little bit like Tom Sawyer, and everybody's coming up to helping me paint my fence, And
Hmm.
anyway, all right, back to our three-step loan consultation three group. Tell me about the intro. What is that, and what do I say?
Yeah. So, which is a great segue because I talk about the triangle of trust, right? I just said that realtors are the reason I usually get the lead. So there's some type of warm referral there. And the triangle of trust is basically I'm solidifying the relationship, right? So, Carl, you referred Michelle to me, right? So I would say in a situation like that, hey, Michelle, because Michelle's the one that's sitting in front of me. I'd say, hey, Michelle, thank you so much for coming in today. I know that Carl referred you over to me, and I just want you to know that Carl is one of the top agents in the area, and he is a go-getter. He does this full time. This is his number one job, and it's to take care of his clients. So you
Mm,
couldn't have picked a better person to
mm,
to help with your search in your houses and making sure that you get what you want and your needs. And I'm glad you chose Carl. Now, I'm doing that because I also want them to stay with Carl, right? So I don't want them going to somebody else. I need them to stay with Carl, and I want them to feel like they made a great decision with choosing Carl as the realtor, right?
mm,
And then I will go into what did Carl have to say about me?
mm,
And then I kind of get an idea of what Carl said, what you might have said, and how you referred them over to me, because it does a couple of things in that, right? What did the agent say? And maybe they just said, hey, call three lenders, and you were the first one. I kind of know where I stand with you now, Carl. Or they said kind of the same thing. Jenay's the best. She's going to help. She's going to sit down with you. She's going to really hold your hand. She's going to walk you through the process. Like I get to get a feel of my agent and where I'm at, but also gives me an opportunity if there is some type of mismatch there, then now I can go back to the agent and we can go and a little bit deeper on things and I kind of know where I'm at.
mm. It's pretty darn clever. I like that. So you the triangle trust, you reflect back to the referral source that sent to you, whoever that
Yep.
happened to be.
Yep.
Once I've done that, well, I really like that. I like the way, because now you hear how I'm referring to you, and if you need to retrain me, like in a cool way,
Hmm.
right, you
Absolutely.
can. And if you find out I'm handing out three cards, right, in a cool way, you can kind of address that, and
Yeah.
you know where, where, yeah. So that's I like that. I like that a lot, actually. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I
A
have
lot of
never.
info in just a one little triangle of
Could
trust.
the other thing it would do is it might tell you the primary thing I'm interested in as a client. Because I was sitting there thinking,
It does.
my answer might be, what did Realtor Lisa say about Jenay? Well, she told me that you're really good at helping self-employed borrowers. So now you
Absolutely.
know,
Yep. Yep.
okay, that's what car.
Yep.
Or she said you're really good at describing the process, and Maria and I are a little concerned. We've never done this before, and I just don't want to be somebody take advantage of me. And so
Yeah.
now you know that trust is my number one thing, and so it kind of helps you to know what to amplify, because that's really that's
Yeah, and I'm doing just like you are, right? I'm writing down as they tell me something that
yeah.
sticks out like that. I'm writing it down because I want to circle back to that later,
So that
right?
that
When
was
I go to the close part.
yeah, because that was
So I'll
important to me.
circle back. Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Yep.
that. I like it. All right. So, any other part of the intro? Like
I do a little bit about who we are as a company, right? That they're working with a large company. You know, we're not a national bank like a Bank of America or a Chase, but we're large enough that we're directly insured with Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie Mae. So I just kind of give them a little bit about us, and I tell them, because they're right here with me in the Dallas area, but I tell them that we're all over the country, that we're licensed in over 40 states, and they're like, and sometimes they're like, oh, okay, like they realize I'm not just a tiny bank, but I'm still large. So it
yeah,
it doesn't feel like sometimes you would think that's important, but when you see the body language, they're like, oh, okay, and then they say something, they realize, oh, you are bigger than just right here in this
yeah.
office.
Hard to beat that statement of stability, because that's really what you're doing there. So, and
Yep.
somebody doesn't become large by being typically by being a buffoon, right? So, if
Right.
you got a big successful company, like Raymond James for financial planning, they got to be doing something right, or a big company like that wouldn't would
Yes.
wouldn't take them on. So, all right, I like that.
Yep.
Nuts and bolts. Tell me what nuts and bolts mean. So we had the intro.
Yeah.
You told me how did I get introduced to you? What did that person say about you? Here's a little bit about the company, and then we go into nuts and bolts. What does that mean?
Yeah. So this is where I get into the actual qualifying, right? Find out where they're at. And so I ask just several questions in the very beginning, and I just want to get information, is all I'm doing, just to kind of see where they're at. So the first question I'll ask is, hey, have you seen any houses? Have you started looking online on Zillow or Realtor.com, anything like that? And the houses in the area, what price point are you seeing that would be of interest to you in that market, right? So I want them to tell me, oh, I'm looking at 500,000 or 300,000 or whatever the number is. I'm just filling them out at this point. So that's question number one. And then question number two is, if have you thought about what your budget is for a monthly payment? Tell me a little bit about more where you're comfortable at. So I immediately know how far off we are. If they're telling me they want a $500,000 house and they want a $2,000 a month budget on a payment, maybe if they have a large down payment, right? But I know if they're not there and they have no money down, that I got to have this conversation. So the third question is, how much cash do you have available to use to put towards the house? And I'm
Hmm.
just getting the info because that tells me how I need to structure the next part of it and the objections I already know that we need to overcome.
And okay, so I do the intro, nuts and bolts, which is where Carl, what's your expectations?
Yep.
And I guess
And
at
let
the
me just, yeah, let me tell you the really part of that. So I get the information, right? And then I'm like, okay, I need to talk about loan programs, right? Because they're searching the internet now. They're online. They're
yeah.
like, I think I want an FHA, or oh, I got to do 20% down on conventional. They may have an idea, they may have no clue at all. And one of those things I learned early on was that I wouldn't talk about loans. I just already knew that they were an FHA borrower. So I just started immediately talking about FHA.
Mm.
And then they would call me up later on, 2 weeks later, going, well, my friend told me that there was this conventional loan I could do and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, hold on, stop. So in my presentation, I talk about the three different type of loan products. I talk about conventional loans. And I say this is why conventional loan would be a good bucket with a first time home buyer. You can do 3% down. And but typically you can't have as much buying power because they're more limited sometimes on debt to income ratios and really heavy credit score driven. And then I go to the second bucket, which is government loans. Government loans are FHA loans, VA loans for veterans. And then I kind of stop. I say, are you a veteran? No, no, no. I'm like, okay, perfect. Then we won't talk about that. And then USDA loans, which is for rural housing, which is going to be specific to the area. These are
Mm.
great loans. Usually you can maximize buying power on that. Sometimes they're more forgiving on those credit scores. So we might look at that bucket for you as well. And the last bucket is non-traditional loans. And you mentioned that Carl had referred you over because you were self-employed. Sometimes these non-traditional loans, if you don't have a lot of income that you're filing on your taxes, that might be a good bucket for you as well. But typically, they require a little bit larger down payment. Sometimes they come with higher rates. So we're going to go through the next phase of this, and I'm going to ask you some questions around your qualifying and your cash, credit, and income, which will help us determine which one of these buckets we fall into. And what I learned is that, and you can tell I've said that a lot of times. And so what I learned that is if I skip that, it was like them thinking that I was choosing the loan for them. And that's
Mm.
the education piece because sometimes they might qualify for conventional and FHA, right? But now I've told them a little bit about pros and cons of why they may want to go another. So when mom or the aunt or somebody says something to them, they will understand more of, hey, Jenay, number one, offers all the programs because I want them to know I offer everything, but then also that the reason why we might have chosen one of those buckets.
So more of a collaborative approach
Yes,
is what you're doing here.
absolutely.
Well, how long
Yep.
are these meetings typically? If I show up in your office at
Yep.
1 o'clock, how long
One
am I?
hour. 1 hour.
1 hour.
1 hour. I want in
And
and out in 1 hour.
is it the same on Zoom? A little quicker, a little longer?
No,
Same?
same, exactly the same.
Same.
It doesn't change. 1 hour.
Hey there. Hey, if you're loving the tips so far, be sure to hit that subscribe button right down there and then tap the little bell so that you never miss out on more free, cool tips coming your way. Also, I would love to hear from you. Drop a comment beneath there. Let me know what you think or tell me what you'd like to hear next. Do you always, and I'm going to use the word require, it's probably not the right word, but do you always require if there's two borrowers, are they both on the call or do
I
you?
want them both on the call because I don't know who's making the decision in the household, right?
Mm,
Husband may be on the call, but wife is like, no, 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 honey. I wanted the 4 bedrooms, and I know that you said you only wanted to be at this price point, but I really want that, right?
mhm, mhm,
So, one of those other questions I ask on that payment when it goes into that is I'll say, if it was the perfect house and it checked off all the boxes and it had everything that you were looking for in a home, what is the max amount you're willing to spend on a monthly basis for that house? Because if
mhm,
it's perfect and it's your dream house and you want it, we don't even want to look at it if you're not willing to pay for it.
mhm. That's very smart. So on the nuts and bolts, you talk about the different programs,
Yep.
cash to close.
Yep.
So you just give me my options available. Am I
Yeah.
am I during this meeting, if me as the prospect, am I making the decision with you? Am I making that decision right then? I think we're going to go for the insert in type loan. Is that something we're deciding right then?
Oh, that's a good question. No, I actually call it our budget meeting, right? We're really talking today about budget, and we might have a couple of different options, but what we want to do and what we want to accomplish out of this meeting is that when you start looking at houses with your agent, that we know how to structure the offer. So we know if we need seller paid closing costs. We know that you're in the right price point for the budget that you're at. So these things can change. And you mentioned to me just a little while ago that, hey, you're saving a couple of $1,000s every month. So you might have more to put into it, right? But today is where are we at right now? And if we start looking at homes and we want to make an offer tomorrow, we know exactly how to structure that offer. And then we go from there. You come back to me once you're under contract. We'll go and we'll update these options because sometimes one option today might be best, but then 2 months from now, when you find the house, it might be different. And we're going to come back and we're going to revisit those.
What percent of the people that you're meeting with have a property already picked out versus like how many people show up with
I
a
think it comes in waves. Yeah, it comes in waves because sometimes they come to you and you're like, yes, everybody's like already got something. And like right now, I would tell you that, but I feel like more are coming with houses that they're interested in,
uh-huh.
but they don't know where they're at versus vice versa. And it might be because of this time of the year. I don't
Mhm.
know. But then all of a sudden, then most of them don't have a house in mind. But every once in a while, I get several that are,
I got
hey,
it.
man, bam,
Yeah.
already got something. And then I have to have those hard conversations, like I had yesterday with a client that wanted this home and she loves it. And then I ask her where they're at, and of course, we're outside of the budget, but I want to have that conversation now, whether they have a house now or they don't. I
Mhm.
want to get those things out of the way today versus down the road once they're under contract. And then because if you've been in the business a long time, I think you've had it happen to you where they go and they find the house and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I don't want that payment. I can't afford that. And they cancel the contract. The agent's upset, right? The client's upset. They're frustrated. They may or may not ever buy a house, or it might be years before they want to get in the process. And nobody wins in a situation like that.
So if I come up to you and I said, "All right, Janae," and I'm gonna make it extreme just to get the point here.
Okay.
Uh, uh, I picked out a $500,000 house, and I'm looking for a $2,000 payment, which here in Florida with our taxes, insurance, that's not going to happen, right? Or with a reasonable, without putting a significant down. How do you how do you verbalize to me that I'm upside down here? How do you tell me
Yeah.
that I'm screwed?
So if you had a house, right, and you said, hey, this is, or sometimes I'll just pull it up. I say, hey, let's look online. Because a lot of times they've already searched online, right? I already asked the question, are they looking at Zillow? Like I'm trying to find out what website are they on that they're looking at homes. Because if you know, these online mortgage calculators that they have on these websites are already assuming at least a 20% down. I pull it up on
Mhm.
here, right here in the office on the screen with me. If I'm on Zoom, I'm screen sharing. I'm like, hey, let's look at a house. Like I did one the other day, and they were here, and I'm like, let's just pick a. It was a $350,000 house in the area that they were looking at. I put a random one, And I said, let's look at this mortgage payment. Well, the mortgage payment, a lot of times that's where they're getting their info because they see that it's a much lower than where they are. And so I educate them on that and I'll say, hey, look, this is showing if you had $80,000 down and you just said we only have 10. So we need to make adjustments to this. And I immediately adjust it because then it's not me saying it. It's me educating them that online they're not getting the proper data. And sometimes I'll bring up a couple of different websites and show them how two different websites have two different payments. And so I explain to them and show them how they can do it on their own, right? And so when they're working on it on their own, they know. And then now it's not me because people will go, if it comes from me and they're saying, oh, Jenay just told me it was that, I'm going to call another lender down the road and see if they tell me something different. And they may have told them something different, right? Because they undercut taxes and they gave them insurance that's not realistic that they would be able to get, right? But now they know it's not me, it's
I
the
like the way you did
internet
that.
and they need to make
Mhm.
those changes. And then they're like,
Yeah.
oh, and their eyes open and a light bulb goes off and they're like,
Yeah.
okay, right? They may not like the information, but I'm
Yeah.
not the bad news. I'm just the one that showed them how to get there.
Yeah. So basically, you're not telling me I'm stupid. You're telling me I've been misled,
Yes,
kind of thing. I like
exactly.
the way you do that. All right.
Yeah.
So we had the intro, we have the nuts and bolts, we've gone
Yep.
over the programs. Tell
Yep.
me about the close. So give me the close. I haven't picked a property yet. So I'm at your office, I'm getting
Yeah.
it approved, and
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
going over the nuts and bolts. So what does a close look like when
Yeah.
I can't make a financial, like I'm not signing the docs today, so to speak.
Yeah.
What does that
Yeah.
close look like?
Yeah. So we go into, I'm like, I know we just went through a lot of information and this is feels like it's a little bit overwhelming. And let me tell you, have you ever planned a vacation? And when you go on vacation, there's so much planning to it, right? Where am I going to go? How am I going to get there? Am I picking the right spot that I'm going to stay? And because I'm spending all this money to go on this vacation and take my family, and making sure that you're doing it right. So there's a lot of research that goes into that. And then you get to the point where you're like, okay, it's time for me to go. So you pack your bags, you get everything packed up, and you're like, okay, I get to the airport and security starts to unpack everything that you strategically packed. You go in, you get there 3 hours before because you're traveling international. They tell you that you got to do all this stuff. You get on the plane and you're like, oh, okay, I'm on the plane. Like, all right, we're here. The pilot gets on and says, hey, I want you to know I'm glad you're traveling with us today, but my job is to get you there quick and safe and as quick as we possibly can and on time. But you know what? If we're going to hit any turbulence, we might hit some along the way. I project that there might be some. I'm going to minimize that turbulence. We may have to reroute, and I'm still going to get you there as close to it as I can on time. So sit
Mm,
back and just relax. You get off the plane, you get to your destination, you get there, maybe it's a beach. I love the beach, so I talk about that, right? So you get to the beach, your feet are in the sand, and maybe you get your drink in your hand, you're like, ah, you forgot about everything that happened up to that point. All those months of planning and
mm,
getting into that place, you're like, okay, good. That is a lot like buying a house. This process is a
mm,
lot like that. There's a lot of planning, there's a lot of going into it. And what I'm going to tell you is, I'm here to guide you and be the pilot of the plane, right? I'm going to get you there as quick and as smooth as I possibly can. And there's times that sometimes we hit a little turbulence, and I'm going to minimize that turbulence and still get you there on time as quick as we possibly can. And when you get into your house and you sit down on your back porch or in your living room and you sit there and your couch is moved in and you're watching TV, you're going to go, oh, I forgot about
mm,
all of those things that happened that got me to this point. So just remember that in this process, that it's going to be a lot of planning. And that's why we're starting here today. And you've taken those right steps, and we're going to get you there at the end of this.
mm. So do you ask for my commitment for me to be or for you to be my lender in this process? So you pre-approved me. We've gone through all these things. You told me you got my back. Is there an actual, and this is a real
Yeah.
question. I'm not trying to lead
Yeah.
you somewhere. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
is there a, hey, so are we going to be doing business together, Carl? Or like how do you? Is
Yeah.
there some sort of a wrap up
So
to it?
there's a thing about, because you said signing documents, right? And there's a thing about when somebody signs something that they feel like it's more official.
Mhm.
So if like we kind of talk about some different numbers, we talk about that loan application. So I have them sign the borrower's authorization form and the loan application there at the end because then they feel like they've made a commitment, right? When there's a signature in place. So even though you and I know that's not a commitment, but making somebody sign something, they feel like, oh, okay. Or they're like, hold on. And then if they're like, hold on, they don't want to sign it. Now I can step back in and go, tell
Where
me
are we
more.
at? Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very interesting. So the last thing you have me do is sign my application,
Yep.
right?
So
And so,
sign, yep, sign. I walk back, I'll go to the printer and I will make a copy because I tell them that they get a copy of it, right? Because I don't want them to feel like they're signing something they don't know what they're signing. Okay.
yeah,
And when I do that, I have what's called a we need your help form. And so right then I tell them that, hey, I'm built on 100% referrals, right? I don't advertise online. I don't have a marketing, plan like a Rocket Mortgage type situation. And Carl was the one that referred you to me, and that's how I stay in business. And a lot of this process is a lot like if you've ever bought a car and you realize that you bought a car that you didn't think anybody had, and then all of a sudden you see it everywhere.
yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. It's called a reticular activator, right? And when you're in the home buying process, all of a sudden you'll be at the office and you'll be talking
Mhm.
to your friends, and they're going to realize that, oh, they're also looking at purchasing a house too. So if you come across anybody or you know somebody right now that could use the same process and go through this with us as well, I'd love it if you would refer them to me. And so that we need your help form gets slid right there. I'm asking for a referral, and then I walk away. I go make the copies because then they're thinking and they're talking, right? And it's not me just standing over them looking like, where's somebody. And then I come back. Sometimes I'll have one, sometimes I'll have two, sometimes I don't have any. And that's okay, right? But at least I've planted the seed so they know that now, hey, if they come across somebody to refer them to me.
I like that. So I sign the docs, you take them to the copy machine. Right before you do, you turn this little paper in my direction, and basically it's who do you know who could benefit by working with Jenay also, and then you leave that with a pen there while you go make copies. It's awkwardly, in a good way, sitting
Hmm.
in front of me, right? That's putting a little bit of guilt in that I feel like I have to put a name in there. And I think
Yeah.
I don't like shame, but guilt is an underutilized tool. I can tell you that right now. So I don't like the
Yeah.
shame thing, but guilt's not a
Yes.
bad thing. Uh,
Yep.
how about what do you do? Do you do a version of that on Zoom? Do you still ask? So you like,
Yes,
you-
I
like,
absolutely still ask. Yeah.
so,
So in that situation, we have to send it to them, right? So we ask them to send it back. And so we email it over to them and ask them, or if they have somebody right then, I try to get like a name and number, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And I'll kind of go, hey, I'm working on getting you your documents over in the email. Hang on just a minute. And I kind of pause while I'm doing that. I can throw up the we need your help form. And so I kind of do a pause there, but a on purpose pause that I'm working on something else that needs to get sent to them while they're thinking.
This has been a very interesting conversation because I'm sitting here looking at this loan consultation checklist that you sent me that I got right before we hit the record button. You said, "Oh, Carl, here you can go get it here," and so I'm sitting here looking at it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm looking at all the things we discussed, and I see market update, turbulence, check. You told me about the turbulence.
Mhm.
Reticular activator, check. You told me about that. So on these 21 little boxes here, as you just been talking through it, I'm going, yep, check. We did that. We did that. We did that. We did that. I see one thing on here. Make sure the buyer has signed the e-consent. I like that. If not, have them sign it. Docs needed and why. I like that. I see one of these things. Call the realtor. Tell me about that.
Yes, yeah. So at the end, we have to call the realtor, right? I have to call and say, hey, I'm sitting here with Michelle, and we just finished up. And so I always try to get Michelle to say something too. Hey, Michelle, how was your meeting today? and then they'll say whatever they want to say. A lot of times it's like, oh my gosh, it was so good and da 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 da, right? And
Yeah.
so, so I'm just solidifying, kind of going back to that triangle of trust, right? That we're all working together as a team to make this thing go as smooth for them as possible. And so, and I'm just doing a little bit of a recap in that, right? As far as what we talked about, maybe what their concerns are. I talked a little bit about the budget. I always tell the agent too, I'm like, you don't have to remember all this. I'm going to email you a full recap because they might be at the grocery store,
Hmm.
or they're at a listing appointment, they're in the car. They're not going to
Hmm.
remember that. I don't want, it doesn't matter. They don't need to remember that. But I do want to solidify that relationship. So I'm just kind of going over a recap of the meeting and also getting the buyers in that to give some feedback too, right? And then the other thing I always like to do is, hey, if I took good care of you today, can you do me a favor? Can you make sure that Carl knows that I took really good care of you? So a lot of times I kind of tee them up for it
Hmm.
because now, Carl, because you referred me, but now Michelle's the one that's saying, hey, oh my gosh, it was great. She answered all my questions. I'm ready to go. Right. So now I'm kind of circling back and solidifying why they referred me and that I took care of them.
Very clever. I really like this. It leaves nothing to chance. You don't seem to have this issue as we're sitting here talking, and we've talked before, right? You don't
Mhm.
seem to have this issue. Most loan officers have this horrible, and myself included,
Oh,
had this
yes.
horrible ADD, and keeping track of things
Yeah.
is almost impossible. And to
Yeah.
have this little checklist to make sure that I don't get off on a tangent and I'm staying on track. And if I'm 20 minutes into the conversation and I see I'm only on number 5 of 21, I know I'm yakking too much. I need to shut up and
Hmm.
and
Keep
and
going.
and keep
Yeah.
going. Yeah. So
Yeah. And you're
very,
right. I coach and talk with loan officers all over the country. And when I talk about the loan presentation and I'll ask, like, how long does it take you for your meeting? And then they'll be like, oh, an hour and a half or 2 hours because I got to do all this prep work before. And then I meet
Mhm.
with them and I go through all this stuff. And the misconception is that, or the perception, I guess you could say, that when you do a professional loan presentation, that people feel like you got to have like a PowerPoint presentation. You got to have like all this fancy
Mhm.
stuff. And I'm like, no, you don't need any of that. You just need a
Mhm.
checklist and something that you follow every single time to make sure that you're not going off one way, that you need to circle and reel yourself back in to get back to that nitty gritty and the nuts and bolts and make sure you cover everything. And so when you dial it into a process of any kind, whether it's a loan consultation or anything in your business, if you have a process and a checklist around it, then a lot of those objections and problems and time efficiency help and either go away or get you more efficient with your meetings with those clients and make it more impactful in your time.
Mm. So you're definitely, I can definitely tell you're a process person.
I am.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's how you can close the amount of loans that you close and still have a life. And you get a higher conversion rate. Hey, I've always thought if we spend all the money and time and effort of getting the referrals, boy, we ought to at least making sure we have a good conversion
Yeah.
process, that I've heard more leads solves all problems, and that's actually not true. That conversion,
Yes.
conversion is
Yes.
where the big money is.
Yeah.
I've always
Yeah.
found like that.
You gotta
Right.
have the leads, but then you gotta convert at a higher level too,
Yeah.
right? So when you look at your leads and you're saying, hey, if I just took the same amount of leads and I converted at a higher level, I'll make double the money.
And it's free money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the South, down here I'm in the Tampa Bay area, Janae, and down here we have an old saying, milk the cows you already have before you go buy more cows. And
Yes.
that's kind of what we're talking about here is
Yeah.
increasing, not calling our borrowers cows, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Janae, this is absolutely fascinating. Really, really, really good stuff. Hey, if somebody has some questions or they want to reach out to you or they happen to be in the Dallas area and
Yeah.
want to rub elbows with a top producer in the Dallas area, is there a email address or something you want us to put in the show notes or something?
Yeah, yeah. You can email Jenay Jenay .Bowen at summitfunding.net SUMMITFUNDING.net.
All right, great. So that's a great way for people to connect up with you. And so you taught
Perfect.
one of our MMA classes. what was it, 2 weeks ago, I think, something like that.
Mhm.
What was that topic? Remind me of the
Yeah.
topic.
Extreme follow-up.
Which kind of talks about more conversion.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you're
And
you're kind of the
after the
conversion
meeting,
queen.
yeah,
Yeah.
after the meeting, what do you have to do? Right. It's even before the meeting, right? To get them there into the office, right?
Yeah.
And then afterwards, all the way through closing. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, I'd love to have you on again, and maybe on the next one. How do you get the real estate agents to refer to you to have a client to actually do the loan consultation check
Oh,
for you?
yeah.
So maybe we'll
There's
do
a
that on
lot
the
to
next
that.
one. All
Yeah.
right.
That'd be great.
Thanks a lot, Jenny. I appreciate you, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Carl.
All right, great stuff. So obviously for time, Janae couldn't go over the entire loan consultation. Hey, if you want to go over more of it and kind of like a checklist of like what's on there, just give us a call in the office. If you go to getmoreloans.com, and on that consultation with us, just say, hey, tell me more about the loan consultation form and some of the things that's on it, and we'll be happy to share that with you. So getmoreloans.com. Be sure to reach out to Janae and share a little love with her for openly sharing exactly what she's doing to get a high conversion rate that's given her great success. And I found the secret in business and in life is find people that's successful and already doing what you want, and then just copy them, right? Copy them, like befriend them and in a cool way, of course. Just copy them. So that's worked very well for me. I'm sure it's worked well for Janae too. So, all right, getmoreloans.com. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next episode of Loan Officer Freedom. Thanks again. Bye bye.